What's going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. It is Saturday morning, 10:28 a.m. And we're here to share where we see NIO going into next week. If you missed my last week's video, we drop one of these. And also, if you're new here, we drop one of these videos once per week. I was talking about last week that I'm getting more bullish as time goes on. There's a few levels that I'm watching, and I think I talked about last week about like potentially seeing the lows maybe tag right at 331. It's been kind of moving quite in slow motion, but there's some interesting things that are going on here. Right now, I have opened up on NIO the 2-hour time frame. Now, if you take a peek here at that 2-hour time frame, and by the way, if you're new here and making a big financial decision on deciding whether or not you want to invest in NIO, please do your own due diligence. Please do your own research. I'm just a guy who loves the stock. I'm just a guy who loves charting the stock here, and I've been wrong in the past with my analysis. So please don't make a big decision based off what I say. Do your own research. Having said all of that, also, if you're new here, once we don't just look at NIO, we tend to dive in and look at BABA. We look at Hang Seng index. We like to look at the Dixie. We like to piece together all the different pieces and try and figure where the stock's going. One of the things we do differently is we look at the velocity and divergences and pullbacks. This is one of my custom indicators that measures the speed of these moves, and it can let us know like if the sellers are finally ready to give up and tap out, and then you might kind of catch a reversal. So it's a momentum oscillator, and it can actually tell you when things are trying to flip, and it can give us kind of like different heads up here. And so I've been watching this very, very carefully. And I've been trying to catch this bottom here. And it's very interesting here, actually, what's happening. Because it seems to, week after week, try and make lows, and it's making lows. But as it's making these new, fresh lows, so I think, when was it? June 13th, we hit a low of 348. June 18th, 343. And I guess just this most recent week, we hit 340. Now, it hasn't quite taken the lows out from June 3rd, but one of the things that's currently happening as of right now on the 2-hour time frame is we're actually getting, with each of these passing lows, we're getting higher lows that's currently being forming here. That's bullish. Now, just how to interpret that, and I'm sure some of you guys are tired with me kind of saying this over and over. When you see that, the price is pushing lower, but it's doing it at a much slower speed. Sellers are not as interested selling at these levels. You're getting you're getting into some pretty big support levels. Now, if you were to look at the overall structure from the lows back in April and draw out a Fibonacci retracement tool from the bottom to the top, you can see the bottom. It bounced pretty hard off the 0.786. Which was 332 approximately. Now, right now, it's dancing between the golden pocket, which is 352, and 332. So it's kind of like in this range here. And it still looks good, you guys. You just got to be very patient. Now, I've said this on the very last run, which I'll let you know, I did not think they were going to draw it out 5 months. That was like a 5-month draw out. I was like, wow, like that thing. Sorry, that this whole section wasn't 5 months. From the top of this run to 7 to before they finally let it run, that was like in total like 5 months. It was a crazy amount of time before this thing kind of popped off. 150 days. Like, yeah, that's unreal amount of time before this thing kind of popped off here. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take that long, but all throughout this time, and if anyone was actually following me, there was so many bears that came onto Twitter and said, guys, NIO's going to drop. It's going to 2. It's going to 3. Now, hindsight's always 2020, and you can see it did make that drop. But during this window, I kept saying, all right, guys, there's going to be a rally. There's going to be a rally. You got to be patient. It's coming. It's coming. It just took forever for this thing to kind of build up. And some people were like, it wasn't really much of a rally. I mean, it was a pretty, if you were to even go from this low to there, and that's just being not from all the way from the complete low. A 33% move on NIO is actually pretty significant. Now, right now, what I think is happening is it's slowly doing this BS price action where it's just dancing. And right now it looks like it's kind of fading, but if you actually look at the bigger picture here, it's still making higher lows. And I think the bigger move that's going to be coming on NIO is a move up. So if you have anybody here that's saying, yep, if you're buying NIO here, it's going to go down. Well, no. Before NIO ever does go down, you're going to see that move up. The move up is building. We know this. Anyone who's been following NIO for a long time knows that it has like these very predictable cycles. It's been a while since it's actually had a really big move. I don't actually count this as a move because it wasn't really, I mean, it was a nice move, but to me, it was more of just a higher low is how I looked at that. It had a really huge drop, higher low, and I think the bigger move is kind of building up. And so if you ask me, I do think we have not seen the big move. The big move has not come. So I'm switching the time view over to the 24-hour time frame because I've talked about this in my last video, how we tend to pay attention here, and I'm leaning on my indicator because it gets the point across here. We lean on this yellow line, which is a 200-day moving average, and it measures kind of like if it's going to generate a higher low or a lower low. It helps us kind of pick out if there's going to be a bigger move or a shorter move. This most recent move was that we had back in February and March. It bounced and it made that move off of a lower low. Now, also, it made a lower low over here. This was also a lower low. Now, something interesting is happening, and I talked about this last week. It's now forming a higher low. Now, it was trying to do that, as you can see right over here. It was trying to do that right over here, and it hasn't done it, and that's okay. I do believe that it is building towards getting that higher low. And let's turn that yellow so you guys can actually, we won't use orange, we'll use yellow. So it looks just like the indicator. And I believe what you're going to see now, let's see, let's make that white. And let's make this white. So it just makes a lot of sense for those of you guys who want to know what I'm anticipating and what I think is going to happen. The most important thing that I'm watching for is a higher low that's going to be formed here. The last time we had a sequence of a higher low being formed on the 200-day moving average was August of 2024. It was right over here. And that's when it like basically revisited pretty much the absolute lows before it exploded right to the top. It gave you a 120% move. And I think that a very, very similar thing is forming here. So just so we just kind of get on the same page, I think that's still in the works here. And when I look at the chart, I see a very, very similar setup playing out. Very, very similar. Now, that's just a 24-hour time frame. We looked at the 2-hour time frame. Now, if I were to look back here and show you all the times, and I'm going to use a highlighter tool, it does a better job illustrating. If I were to show you all the times that the stock was below the 200-day moving average, and that's when you kind of got like that decline in price action, and we'll just call this, for the sake of that, decline in price action. We have that decline coming. The following move that you're going to get when it moves up is like, and so if somebody's looking at NIO and says, oh yeah, like NIO is hot garbage, I'm shorting it here at 341. Well, guess what, buddy? You missed the lower high here at 390. If you were going to short it, that move has already happened. You're way too late if you're shorting this. That's gone down 13%, and it made that higher low. And it's forming bullish divergences. Sellers are showing kind of exhaustion here. And I think there's going to be that bigger move that's going to start. It's going to form. It's going to come right up. Now, just looking at this at the 2-hour time frame, we're going to clean the chart here. It's getting a little messy here. So if you take a look, this was a lower low. And I'm going to use my arrow tool to help kind of point it out so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Remove the drawing. There's your arrow tool. It was a lower low also on the 2-hour time frame. And then it tried to form a higher low. And then so there's your higher low. And what does it look like it's forming here? It's looking like it wants to form this. Timing is so perfect. How long has it been in a downtrend, guys? I mean, that move is coming. That move is coming. I'm very confident it's going to come. It's been 100 days since you've had that big move. How long did it take from the top of this rally? Where was 100 days? 100 days was right here. You didn't actually start seeing that rally until like 114 days. So we're still kind of in timeline between like that 3 and 4 month mark. Now you go into the 24-hour time frame. One of the things that I was actually talking about last week was I wanted to see it make a bullish divergence here from this low, but it actually didn't. It didn't make a bullish divergence. It failed to do that, which is okay. It just means that it's gonna take a little bit longer of like potentially like this sideways barcoding price action that we've all been seeing. Like it made a lower low, which basically takes away the fact from this. Even if it tags below here, it wouldn't be considered a bullish divergence. To get a bullish divergence, you would need to see it kind of bounce, take the lows out. And then how that would look like on the price is you would get a bounce and it would make a higher low on that velocity, which is what I'm looking for to kind of get a signal that the sellers are like pretty much done. But now when you go into the 1-hour time frame, again, we're kind of going to different time frames just to kind of paint a better picture and just to understand where we are. And you look here, we're getting close here. You can see that finally the 200-day moving average since 390 up here is starting to curl up. Now, what I think is likely to happen going into next week, when I just look at this 1-hour chart, when I see a chart like this on the velocity, and I'm able to like draw out this like line here, usually, and not always, usually what I end up seeing, I see this. Oh, I'm using the right color. This is what I would see. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a break because you can tell where I'm drawing it from. I usually see it come up, break under, and then give her. And what that would look like, just so you know, this is the speed and the velocity. What that would look like is it would look a lot like this. Okay. Maybe you get a little pop. It would look like that. Usually when I'm looking at stocks and I'm looking at charts and I want to make sure that I get the best possible price, the best buys usually happen right after you get that huge drop. And I can kind of see it's building up towards that big drop. Whatever the news may be, I think there's going to be something that's going to come out, and then they're going to be like, "News done. It's taking this lows out," and meanwhile, it's still holding a higher low. And there's going to be some people freaking out about it. But I think that is in the works. So if you're somebody with cash on the sidelines, looking to average down or just get into NIO, I think keeping your eyes peeled for that one big swoop lower, that's what I would be doing. And then if you get that, that would almost be like, okay, that's my buy signal. That's when I want to kind of try and get long, because I know I'm getting pretty darn close to the bottom. And if you wanted to kind of be careful, you would wait for it to get to that big bounce would give you a confirmation, and you would try and get in on the dip. That's what I think is going to happen going into next week. I do think there's going to be a, you might get like early in the week a little bit of a lift, followed by a big like a dip. And that dip is going to be like the dip. That's the dip that you want to likely try and swoop, get the bottoms, and it just runs. Because timing wise, we're there. We're totally there. It might be a couple more weeks there, but we're super duper close. I mean, if you were extending this out, I should be doing it from all the way over here, 105 days. If we were going to even to 120, yeah, you guys, you got to be patient. You got to let this go. But I think this thing is slowly coming to a bottom here. So if you see that, just know it's part of I believe the technical setup that I think that's forming. So you might not be able to see this. I'm just going to erase the picture here actually, and I'm trying to think of a similar scenario. And honestly, I don't want to like waste so much time talking as to like where that setup is going to be. But I'm letting you know. I think one more drop is coming. You might see an early lift into next week, followed by that big 5, 7, 8% minus day. And that's your go-to. That's your time to buy. In my opinion, that would likely be the best time to get long on NIO. Yeah, that's it. That's what I believe. And again, just some numbers that I'm always watching for. Like if you really don't want to like take any risks at all, you would just wait for 409 to break. It's a huge level here. And you might run the risk of seeing like that a big explosive move right from the bottom, but I think it'd be the second chance that you'd want to get from. And I think these are the two levels. The biggest levels that I'm watching is 409 and 550. Yes, there's levels above that, but let's cross those bridges when we get there. I did want to leave one more comment here, and it's just throughout the week I've kind of I read what some of the NIO people say, and there was some discussions about a spin-off on their chip sector, spinning off their business. I don't know. I'm gonna leave that open-ended for you guys. Have you guys ever seen like how often do you guys see a stock hurting real bad pull off a successful spinoff? I'm a little skeptical about that. I'm not a big fan of that. And again, that has nothing to do with technicals. But it is something to kind of keep your eye open for. I'm not sure if that's a for sure thing or if that was a rumor or if I misread that. But I'd love to hear what your comments or what you guys believe about that spinoff. I think that would be, whether that would be good or bad for the company, I think ultimately for retail shareholders and the short-term price action, I don't think will be very, very good. I've seen some spinoffs in my days, and generally in my experience, spinoffs typically and mostly end off very, very poorly for retail shareholders. So if there is any type of vote on that, actually, I mean, I don't want to sway you guys. I'm just curious, what you guys all think about that. Anyways, that's it on NIO. Let's quickly dive into BABA here. I hope you guys, in case you guys don't remember, I think there might be one more big swoop. You'll see that low taken out. Again, it's same as last week, but as you can see, if you were to go into even the 1 minute, it just... I don't know who watches the 1 minute. I tend to just look at it at the end of the day because it's like, how could you watch this? Like, this is just like when it goes, like this is ugly, but when it does go, it'll look. You'll get that straight vertical line. It'll start looking good. let's look at Baba. Let's look at the Hang Seng. Let's look at the Dixie. Let's wrap up. See where we're going here. Baba is looking good. Baba's looking good. One, and you got like that two break, and it's forming a higher low. Like, this is beautiful on Baba. And it actually is. It's setting up for that higher low. So good. Baba looks so good. I think Baba is 138 bound. And Baba going up is good for Hang Seng. It's one of the major, like, I think it's one of the top 3 stocks in the Hang Seng index. So when that goes up, Hang Seng's going to go up. I won't take too much time diving in here into a deep analysis on Baba, because this is just a NIO analysis. But I really like what I see in the 24-hour time frame. If I were go even to go in the 2-hour time frame, you can even see Baba. You know, it pulled back from 120 all the way down to, it had a $10 pullback, which is pretty significant, and it's below the 200-day moving average. But I do believe you're going to actually see that bounce, that mean reversion that's going to take place on Baba, which tells me I think Hang Seng will look almost identical. Usually the two look very similar. Sometimes they don't, but let's take a look at the 24-hour time frame. Now, it made a higher high, I should say. It made a higher high here relative to the last high. So that move was quite explosive. You can see where it's finding support here, and it's making a higher low. You might actually get an explosive week next week. You might. Maybe that dip doesn't actually come in and things just run on NIO. I don't know. Like, it might, but like, again, like, to time it perfectly right down to the bottom is it's crazy hard to do. But I do really like what I see. You had 2 really awesome dips to kind of get in on that next spin move. This was a really big dip. There was another really big dip here, but something's brewing. Something big is building up here for the Hang Seng index. I could see it. And then let me see, 2 hours. Look, it's below the 200-day moving average as well. Same thing. It's like the same freaking chart when you're looking at it. Pullback. China had that pullback. Then it's going to have that mean reversion bounce. It's going to be coming. Dixie. I swear this has been forever. It's been in this range here. I'm going to get rid of that. But pretty much a general rule of thumb is when you break 1 and 2, it's good to go. And it's just dancing here. It is dancing. The 200-day moving average is curling. It's basically a base, and you can kind of almost call this like a double bottom here. And I think you're going to get that move very, very soon here. I just want to point out another stock here, only because I've been watching this for a long time here. Not Baba, it was AMD. How the 1 trend line and 2 trend lines, look how amazing. It went from 75 almost to 133, almost a 100% rally. You could have easily picked up, oops, I didn't want to delete that one. I just wanted to delete this. Oh my God. There we go. That you could have gotten around 105, 110, even 115. And I do think this thing is going to go to 200. There's going to be that magnet there. And it's a reliable blue chip stock. Things look crazy good on AMD. You might get one of these moves that are actually in the up and coming works. It comes up, maybe tops at 143, and then you get that big pullback. But I think ultimately you're gonna see 200. And that's going to be in the works for AMD. And that goes to show you, like, so many people tried to time the bottom on AMD. And all you had to do was just kind of be patient and wait for a dip. And I think there will be one of these kind of dips. You might even get one of these dips here where it'll give everybody a chance to kind of get long. Bitcoin. Sorry, I just want to touch real quick on Bitcoin, because I think it's interesting. In my Twitter feed, which is not very big, but I do have people that I follow regarding Bitcoin, and you haven't gotten that confirmation. And it's very, very, very interesting how it just hasn't broken out of this. It has not been able to break out of this parallel channel. And I can't tell you, like, the similarities here between this and that. That's not to say it's going to come all the way back down to 70. It's just to say, if you got people who are like, oh yeah, I'm a crypto expert and I've figured it out. To be honest, I'd be a little skeptical. You'd want to see that big move up, a retest, and then it go up. It has to break above, just like it. We talked about that in the Hang Seng index. Can it do it? I mean, if there's any stock that can, or any indice that can do it, it's Bitcoin. But that's it, guys. That wraps up my video here. And again, if you guys forget, or if you're just kind of fast forwarding right to the end of my video here, just to kind of hear where I see things going, I do see the lows being taken out, especially since the velocity on the daily did actually make a lower low. So I think you will get that. And then when I look at the hourly, I think there will be that big like that big 7-8% like minus day. If I think it's going to be right in that level. I wouldn't use that information to do anything. I wouldn't try and like, oh, let's sell my position and buy it like 10 cents, 20 cents lower. Like it's mainly for people that are just kind of sitting on the sidelines that I think it would make sense. Hey, let's average down a little bit. Or this is where I'd want to deploy some of my funds. Look for that. Look for that low being taken out at 332. I think that's going to happen. And when it does, that's going to be pretty close to near the bottom for NIO. Having said that, if you've watched the whole video, thank you so much. If you've been supporting me all along, special thanks to you guys. I actually see all of your comments and I appreciate all of you guys. And I encourage you, if you haven't already done before, please drop a comment section. I'd love to hear a little bit about you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my video and smash the thumbs up button. Thanks so much, guys, and have a wonderful weekend.